Jackie Chan had died in 1986, no one would have called it surprising, they would have called it inevitable. Because the truth is this, long before he became a legend, Jackie Chan made a career out of doing things that most actors wouldn't even rehearse. Jumping from buildings without wires, sliding down poles wrapped in live lights, crashing through real glass, falling from clock towers because the first take wasn't good enough. And in 1986, during the filming of Armour of God, the risk finally caught up with him. The stunt looked simple. He would leap from a tree branch to a stone wall. He had done worse, higher, faster, more reckless. But this time, his hand slipped, his body dropped, his head hit solid rock. There was no cinematic slow motion, no heroic soundtrack, just the dull, horrifying sound of bone cracking against stone. A piece of his skull fractured and was driven into his brain. Blood spread beneath him as the crew froze in shock. Surgeons later said he was minutes away from death. He permanently lost hearing in one ear and still carries a metal plate in his head. Most actors would have seen that as the end of a career. Jackie Chan saw it as a delay. That response only makes sense when you understand the kind of child he once was. Because Jackie Chan was not raised to avoid pain. He was raised to endure it. And that difference shaped everything. He was born Chan Kong-sang in 1954 in Hong Kong into a working-class family that struggled to survive in a crowded and unstable city. His father worked long hours as a cook. His mother took domestic jobs. They loved their son, but love did not create financial security. By the time Jackie was 7, they faced a decision that would define his life. They enrolled him in the China Drama Academy, a brutal Peking opera school known less for artistic sensitivity and more for military-level discipline. Then they moved to Australia for work. He stayed behind. For a 7-year-old, there is no polite explanation for that. Jackie later admitted that he cried almost every night during his first year at the academy. He believed he had been abandoned, but the academy did not allow emotional collapse. It allowed repetition. Training began before sunrise and ended long after sunset. Students stretched until their muscles trembled, practiced flips until their vision blurred, held painful stances until legs went numb. Mistakes were corrected harshly, complaints were ignored. Gradually, something shifted inside him. The fear became normal, the pain became routine. His body adapted. He learned acrobatics, martial arts, swordplay, and stage performance. He learned rhythm and timing, skills that would later define his cinematic style. Most importantly, he learned how to fall safely, or at least as safely as possible. That skill sounds minor. It wasn't. Falling would become the central language of his career. After nearly a decade inside that strict environment, Jackie emerged not as a polished movie star, but as a physically conditioned performer with extraordinary body control and an unusually high tolerance for impact. He entered the Hong Kong film industry as a stuntman, one more anonymous figure among many. In fact, he once appeared briefly in a Bruce Lee film as a guard who gets knocked down. It was an ironic beginning for someone who would later be compared endlessly to Lee. And that comparison nearly destroyed him. When Bruce Lee died in 1973, the Hong Kong film industry panicked. Studios didn't want innovation, they wanted replacement. They wanted another intense, serious, unstoppable martial arts icon. Jackie Chan seemed physically capable, so producers tried to mold him into that image. They gave him rigid expressions, dramatic poses, and scripts that demanded stoic dominance. Audiences rejected it. He wasn't Bruce Lee. He didn't move with the same explosive rage. He didn't project the same silent fury. The films failed. Critics dismissed him. Studios hesitated. At one point, frustrated and uncertain, Jackie left Hong Kong and returned to Australia, working construction alongside his father. For a moment, the story almost ended there. No global icon. No rush hour. Just a former opera student carrying bricks. But this is where the hook of Jackie Chan's life truly begins. Instead of trying harder to imitate Bruce Lee, he asked a radical question. What if the martial arts hero wasn't invincible? What if he slipped? What if he got punched and actually looked like it hurt? What if he survived not because he was stronger than everyone else, but because he was more creative? That shift, from imitation to identity, would change action cinema forever. But it would also demand something extreme. Because to convince audiences that his hero was human, Jackie would have to show real pain, real falls, real bruises, and sometimes real blood. And that commitment to authenticity would eventually take him from Hong Kong rooftops to the edge of death, to Hollywood, and into cinematic history. The accident in 1986 was not the beginning of his recklessness. It was the result of a philosophy he had already chosen. A philosophy forged when a 7-year-old boy learned that falling was inevitable, but staying down was not an option, and that philosophy would cost him broken bones, surgeries, criticism, reinvention, and decades of risk. The real question is not how Jackie Chan became famous. The real question is why he kept jumping, even when the fall could kill him, and that answer lies in what happened after he stopped trying to be Bruce Lee and decided to become something entirely new. The most dangerous moment in Jackie Chan's career was not the skull fracture in 1986. It was the moment he realized he would never be Bruce Lee. Because in 1970s Hong Kong, that realization could end you. After Bruce Lee's sudden death, the industry entered what many later called the Bruceploitation era. Studios manufactured imitators. Actors were given similar haircuts, similar outfits, similar fight choreography. Posters promised the next dragon. Audiences were desperate for that same intensity. Jackie Chan was physically capable. He was trained. He was disciplined. So producers tried to fit him into the same mold. They gave him serious roles, cold expressions, rigid movements. They wanted fury. But fury wasn't his language. He wasn't intimidating in the same way. His face didn't naturally hold anger. It held curiosity. He didn't radiate silent menace. He radiated movement. The films flopped, not dramatically, but consistently enough to damage confidence. Studios began to doubt him. Critics dismissed him as a weak imitation. For a performer who had survived a brutal opera academy, rejection hit differently. It wasn't physical pain this time, it was identity crisis. And that is far more dangerous. At one point, he walked away. He returned to Australia, worked construction, lifted heavy materials instead of fighting opponents. There is something almost surreal about imagining that alternate timeline, the future global icon pouring concrete, blending quietly into an ordinary life. But identity has a way of resurfacing. The breakthrough came not from trying harder, but from letting go. Director Yuen Wu-ping saw something others ignored. Jackie wasn't Bruce Lee. That was the advantage. Instead of suppressing his natural expressiveness, they leaned into it. They allowed him to react when he was hit, to wince, to stumble, to scramble across furniture like a human being fighting for survival rather than posing for dominance. In 1978, Snake in the Eagle's shadow changed everything. For the first time, audiences saw a kung fu protagonist who wasn't born unstoppable. He was bullied, clumsy, underestimated. He learned. He adapted. Then came Drunken Master. The character wasn't just flawed, he was playful. The choreography blended humor with genuine martial arts technique. Jackie weaponized awkwardness. He allowed his body to become elastic in unpredictable ways. He turned ladders, stools, and tables into extensions of his fighting style. That shift wasn't accidental, it was deeply rooted in his opera training. Peking opera demanded exaggerated physical storytelling. Comedic timing was as important as technical skill. Jackie instinctively understood how to stretch a moment, how to delay impact, how to let the audience anticipate the fall, and then deliver it. He wasn't pretending to be invincible anymore. He was surviving creatively. Audiences loved it because they recognized something real in it. When Jackie gets punched on screen, he reacts like it hurts. When he falls, he doesn't stand up immediately with heroic pride. He crawls, he improvises, he grabs whatever is nearby. That vulnerability made him relatable. But here's the paradox. To make action feel more human, Jackie had to push his body further than anyone else. Because comedy only works if the fall looks real. And real meant no shortcuts. By the early 1980s, Jackie Chan wasn't just popular, he was redefining action grammar. He directed, choreographed, and performed in his own films. He controlled camera angles to emphasize impact. He avoided rapid cutting so audiences could see full body motion. He refused to hide behind editing tricks. He built a stunt team composed of former opera classmates, men who trusted him enough to follow him into physical danger repeatedly. That trust would become essential. Because Jackie wasn't content with moderate risk, he escalated. In Project A, 1983, he hung from a clock tower and fell over 60 feet to the ground below. The fall echoed Buster Keaton's silent-era stunt work, a direct homage to the physical comedians he admired. He did it multiple times, not because he had to, because he wasn't satisfied. The perfectionism wasn't about ego, it was about credibility. He believed audiences could feel authenticity, and authenticity required real impact. That philosophy separated him from every other action star of his era. Bruce Lee had intensity, Sylvester Stallone had physical dominance. Arnold Schwarzenegger had mechanical power, Jackie Chan had consequence. His fights felt dangerous because they were. But success brought a new challenge. How do you grow beyond Hong Kong? How do you translate physical comedy and Cantonese rhythm into a Western audience unfamiliar with your style? Hollywood would answer that question, slowly and painfully. And it would test whether Jackie Chan's identity could survive outside the environment that created it. Because reinvention is one thing, global reinvention is another. And this time, the risk wasn't physical, it was cultural. By the mid-1980s, Jackie Chan had already proven he wasn't Bruce Lee. And that was his greatest strength. He had reshaped the martial arts hero into someone human, someone who slipped, winced, scrambled, and survived through creativity rather than dominance. But redefining the hero wasn't enough for Jackie. He wanted to redefine action itself. And to him, that meant one rule. It had to be real. Jackie hated obvious stunt doubles. He disliked fast cuts that hid impact. He believed audiences could feel authenticity, that the body reacts differently when danger is genuine. If a character falls, the fall must look painful. If glass breaks, it must break around a real human body. That philosophy pushed him further than anyone expected. In Project A, he performed the now famous Clock Tower Fall, over 60 feet straight down. It was a direct tribute to silent film legend Harold Lloyd, but the danger was modern and immediate. The first take wasn't good enough. He did it again and again. Gravity did not care about perfection, but Jackie did. In Police Story, he slid down a pole wrapped in live electrical lights inside a shopping mall. Sparks exploded around him, glass shattered, his hands burned. His pelvis was injured on impact. On screen, it looked spectacular. Off-screen, he could barely stand. Then came 1986. While filming Armour of God, Jackie leapt from a tree branch toward a castle wall. It was a routine stunt by his standards, until his grip slipped. He fell headfirst onto solid rock. The impact fractured his skull. A piece of bone pierced his brain. Surgeons later said he was minutes from death. He permanently lost hearing in one ear and still carries a metal plate in his head. Most actors would have stopped. Jackie asked when he could resume filming. That response wasn't reckless ego, it was conviction. He believed that what made his films powerful was the knowledge that the risk was real. Audiences didn't just watch him perform, they trusted him. That trust was built on visible consequence. After the accident, he could have chosen safer roles. Instead, he refined his craft. He rehearsed obsessively, calculated angles precisely, and strengthened the Jackie Chan stunt team, a group of performers who shared his discipline and courage. The stunts didn't become less ambitious, they became more controlled. And perhaps most importantly, he began showing the failures. During end credits, bloopers revealed missed jumps, hard landings, and real injuries. He didn't hide the cost, he made it part of the story. By the late 1980s, Jackie Chan wasn't just a Hong Kong star. He was a symbol of physical authenticity. His films felt different because they were different. The danger wasn't simulated, but conquering Asia was only half the journey. The next challenge wasn't about falling from buildings, it was about crossing cultures. And that leap would test whether Jackie Chan's reality could survive in Hollywood. By the time Jackie Chan looked toward Hollywood, he had already conquered Asian cinema. His films were box office hits, his stunts were legendary. His name carried weight across Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, and beyond. But global recognition was a different battlefield. Hollywood admired martial arts, but it preferred control, structured choreography, safer camera tricks, tighter insurance policies. Studios didn't quite know what to do with a man who insisted on jumping off buildings without wires. Jackie's early attempts in America struggled. The pacing felt unfamiliar. The humor didn't fully translate. His physical style, so precise and theatrical in Hong Kong cinema, was sometimes restrained by Western production systems. For a moment, it seemed possible that Jackie Chan would remain a regional icon rather than a global one. But history had already proven something about him. When he stops trying to fit into someone else's mold, he wins. In 1998, everything changed with Rush Hour. Pairing Jackie Chan with comedian Chris Tucker was unexpected and perfect. Their dynamic wasn't just about action, it was about rhythm. Tucker's fast-talking chaos collided with Jackie's controlled physical precision. East met West, and instead of clashing awkwardly, they amplified each other. For the first time, Hollywood allowed Jackie to be fully Jackie. He didn't have to mimic American action heroes. He didn't have to abandon his comedic timing. He could flip, dodge, improvise, and still maintain the vulnerability that defined his style. The film was a massive success. Sequels followed. Box office numbers soared. Suddenly, the man who once couldn't replace Bruce Lee had achieved something Bruce Lee never had the chance to: sustained mainstream success in both East and West. But global fame brought complexity. Jackie was no longer just a stunt performer risking his body. He became a cultural figure, a symbol of Chinese cinema, a bridge between industries. With that visibility came scrutiny, political comments dissected, personal life examined, decisions criticized. The smiling hero on screen was still human off-screen. And yet, through controversy and aging, through shifting industry trends and the rise of CGI-heavy blockbusters, one thing remained constant: his philosophy. Even as technology evolved, Jackie continued to advocate for practical stunts. Even as younger action stars relied on digital effects, he insisted on rehearsal, precision, and physical truth. He adapted, yes, but he never abandoned authenticity. In 2016, when he received an honorary Academy Award, he held the Oscar and joked that he had chased it for decades. Beneath the humor was quiet validation. More than 200 films, countless injuries, decades of discipline, recognition that had been earned one bruise at a time. Jackie Chan didn't redefine action by being invincible. He redefined it by showing consequences. He fell, he bled, he failed takes. He broke bones, and then he stood up smiling in the blooper reel, from a child who believed he'd been left behind, to a stuntman who nearly died, to a global ambassador of cinema. Jackie Chan built his legacy not on perfection, but on persistence. Because in the end, what made him legendary wasn't that he never fell, it was that he always got back up.